Why do we wear fragrances? There's obviously a number of different reasons for it. I think the main one, though, is we like nice things. We like to look at beautiful pictures, listen to nice music, and then have nice scents around us. And even the bottles look really cool on the bureau. And then there's a whole collecting component, the fragcom component. We're all connoisseurs in fragcom. We like to compare and contrast different fragrances. What's our best signature scent? What's our best scent for summer, winter, etc. And then finally, the most obvious thing is to appeal to other people. Now, the funny thing about that last one, though, is the science is in on it. There was a seminal study back in 2012 in the Czech Republic. The study showed that consistently, a fragrance that appealed to us scored far higher in terms of overall appeal than a fragrance that was randomly assigned to us. That speaks heavily in favor of wearing a signature scent or one of your favorite scents rather than just any old fragrance. The big thing, this was a real surprise, it's that the fragrance itself is not the whole thing. A huge part of the appeal is the combination of the fragrance and our own natural scent, our own body odor. Because if you wear too much fragrance, or if the fragrance is too strong, you smell more chemical. So the more fragrance you wear, the more diminishing returns you get in terms of overall appeal. As somebody that talks about fragrances a lot, it's a lot easier to sell you're getting something more than it is to tell the truth and say, look, if you pull back a little bit, I know it does sound counterintuitive, but you pull back a little bit, you'll get more bang for your buck. That's why I'm always talking about subtlety in fragrance, because it works. Fragrance number one was successful because the perfumer involved engaged in perfumer cosplay and because they managed to find a spice to complete the fragrance. The spice was found in the foothills of the Himalayas. This is Terre Eau Givree. And Eau Givree was a replacement for Terre Eau Très Fraîche. There was a lot of literal in Eau Très Fraîche, so they had to come up with a replacement. Eau Très Fraîche was a Jean-Claude Ellena scent. Christine Nagel was the new in-house perfumer, and the new brief was Frosted Earth. Now, she kind of struggled because even though her style is somewhat similar to Jean-Claude Ellena's in that it tends towards transparency, she's definitely a little bit more modern than him. He was a heavy minimalist, and so she had to put on the Jean-Claude Ellena hat to find a replacement. And so the idea became, and she found this out on a girls' night out. She saw a lot of young men drinking gin and tonic, which is a really cool drink that you have with a lot of ice in the summer. She came up with a gin and tonic idea that she thought she could translate into a fragrance. Now, obviously, you need juniper berries. That's a key element in gin. You also need the lemon wedge, so a lot of citron. And I mean, it is a woody citrus fragrance after all. But the key thing that was tough was coming up with something that captured the feeling of tonic water. If you ever tried it, it's got like this electricity to it. It's carbonated. It's like electric citrus. And they finally found something that worked. It's called Timut pepper or Timur that you can get in the foothills of the Himalayas in Nepal. Talk about an obscure spice. That worked perfectly. Put all three together and then you get that feeling of an icy gin drink, a frosted earth feel. This is a perfect candidate for peak appeal as long as you don't overspray because it's very fresh. It's fairly transparent. It leans towards subtlety and it's not a beast mode scent, which, as we know, doesn't work as well as you think. Fragrance number two is YSL Y EDP, and this is one of the three pillars for the blue fragrance trend that started in 2010 with Bleu de Chanel. And in 2015, you got Dior Sauvage. And then you got this a little bit later. Blue fragrances are not at their peak. What is in the ascendancy is actually also associated with YSL. This is YSL's Myself. I've talked about this at length. This is a sweet orange blossom scent. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but Hugo Boss just announced their version of sweet orange blossom. Now, I have been critical of that. I've compared this, a lot of people have, very closely to YSL Libre, which is a female fragrance line. So I tend to not like it because it leans a little bit too feminine for my tastes. However, and I really have to point this out, this is extremely popular among women if men wear it. They love orange blossom on men. It's not my cup of tea, but it's not to be discounted if you're looking at total appeal to women. I do think, however, because this is so fresh and because myself has a lot of sweetness to it. Now, you wouldn't think so. Orange Blossom's got a fresh component to it, and this has a lot of ambroxan, but the ambroxan here was done in a very sweet way. And I compared the two directly head to head, and there's no question that this is a sweeter scent. So the fact that it's summer, I definitely think this is a better bet for you at the moment because it is quite fresh. The sweetness here comes from the tonka that you tend to get in the dry down. There's also an apple note off the top, but what this has is that sage note. Jeremy Fragrance used to talk about that endlessly. Clary sage in particular is dark. It's strong, it's aromatic, it's quite masculine. There's a lot of it here. And this is still popular. They're not giving this away. A 60 milliliter bottle this size, even at the discounters, is going for over $100. It's like $105. So yeah, this is a high quality fragrance. And look, it's up for you to decide. Do you want to go more in the trend area, or do you want to go with an old classic that is more masculine and I definitely think is more suited to summer? Fragrance number 3 is going to seem like a counterintuitive choice because it's mid-range price-wise, and it is a leather fragrance. But Ferragamo Spicy Leather by Salvatore Ferragamo is a light, fresh, spicy leather scent with a lot of black pepper here. There's also saffron and nutmeg, but the black pepper plays a big role, giving a lot of fresh spiciness, making it a relatively light leather scent. So if you're going for freshness, it doesn't have to be citrus all the time. The house of Salvatore Ferragamo, when it comes to their goods that they sell, the fashion house, 86% of their goods are leather-based. And their fragrances, they're specialized in leather scents. And this particular line, the Ferragamo line, is 4 or 5 fragrances in it, and they're all leather-based. The perfumer, Antoine Maisondieu, he did the Myself fragrance. He's a top-notch perfumer. So if you're looking for expertise when it comes to leather, this is a really good house and a really good line. Fragrance houses have figured out over time that British consumers particularly tend to be more conservative than their American or continental European consumers. And so if you're looking for more of a conservative fragrance, they market to Britain first. That's their main priority. So this started out, it was announced in the UK at Harrods. That's something to look forward to in future. And it also gives an indication as to whether you might like this or not, because it is a fairly conservative scent. And I mean, obviously the clue is in where it was released. Fragrance number 4 is going to come as a huge surprise to everybody. Probably in terms of influence on the greater culture, is the most influential fragrance, male or female, of all time. This is Davidoff Cool Water. This was part of what was called the Ozonic Project by Pierre Bourdon. That was a decade-long project to find the lightest possible fragrance, the freshest possible fragrance that you could get. One of the fragrance formulas within the Ozonic Project was actually Creed's Green Irish Tweed. But the formula for this was seen as a lesser formula than the formula for Cool Water. Pierre Bourdon, he had a weird relationship with the House of Creed, which really didn't exist until Pierre Bourdon took over. And by the time Bourdon left in 2011, he pretty much made the house, right? So everything about the history of Creed is pretty much utter nonsense. Bourdon was responsible for the creation of the house. So the agreement that he had with Olivier Creed was he would submit a formula to a house. And if it was rejected, he would give it to Creed and he would get 2 tailored suits and a lump sum to be paid later. So he applied for the House of Lancôme, and it was the fragrance called Sagamore that was rejected. And so the formula for Green Irish Tweed was given to Olivier Creed. Now, to be fair to people that like Green Irish Tweed, the ingredients used here were significantly better, the high quality ingredients, than anything that Bourdon was thinking of. But in terms of Bourdon's formula, he thought the formula for Green Irish Tweed was better. And it was all to do with an aroma chemical called dihydromercenol. It's like a light and airy aroma chemical. It's never listed as anything in particular, just adds like extreme lightness. And so what Bourdon did was add like a crazy overdose of it. Green Irish Tweed was a lot of dihydromercenol framed with violet leaf. This was dihydromercenol framed with cologne, which is like seawater notes, and mint. And so this he thought was the best. And the reason that this crossed over into the modern culture is that if you smell liquid Tide, what you're essentially smelling is the Ozonic Project, whether it's Green Irish Tweed or whether it's this. Yeah, I know it's out of fashion, guys, but this fragrance really works. When I was getting into fragrances, one of the things that I like to do was find a specific fragrance that really had a lot of one note. So I would get a rough idea as to what that particular note was like. And if you're not familiar with Neroli and you want to understand what Neroli is, Eau de Neroli Dore, that's golden. Eau de Golden Neroli by Hermes is the perfect fragrance. Because yes, this does have bitter orange. It's got a little bit of saffron, but this is a perfect example. Like, I couldn't believe it. As it's almost like pure Neroli to my nose. And so you'll understand just the soapy feel that you get with Neroli. And the soapiness comes from sort of, soap tends to be on the fresh side, right? But it's also got a dense quality to it. And so this feels, it feels like this is almost the closest thing to soap that I've ever tried. And I mean, it smells awesome, really. And Hermes like to do like very, very simple fragrances in terms of notes. This is a super simple scent. I caught up with a bunch of Hermes fragrances when I filmed a video with Chad. He loaned me this one. I love it. I love it. But yeah, if you like soapy fragrances, you're going to love this one. Fragrance number 5 is Montblanc Explorer. And this is the Creed Aventus DNA, which is absolutely perfect for this theme. Creed Aventus, for the very first time, unthroned Dior Homme Intense as the greatest fragrance of all time in Fragrantica voting, which I thought was kind of interesting. And now, this is a very good, high-quality clone of it. It's seen as a muted version of Creed Aventus. This is a very honest, I believe, attempt at cloning it because, yeah, they didn't lie about the ingredients here. Bergamot and ambroxan, it's sweetened. The ambroxan sweetened up the bergamot. There's also some pink pepper. There's vetiver and akagali wood. So a lot more aroma chemicals than what you're going to get with Aventus, which is more natural. But yeah, this one, it's a more muted version. And man, if you're looking for compliments, especially with Aventus, but even with this, it is, as I said, more muted version. If you're looking for compliments, that DNA it really does work. It's fresh. It does appeal to women. I know has a reputation for appealing to men as well. But yeah, it just works. And I think people have finally figured that out. And Dior Homme Intense took a bit of a hit on the most recent Fragrantica voting. For fragrance number 7, look, I love the house of John Varvatos. I have 5 of their fragrances. And I hold them in high esteem because they tend to make very original scents. But my favorite John Varvatos fragrance I discovered last year, this is Artisan Blue from the Artisan line. I know Artisan Pure, which I do own, is the most popular, but this is the one that I like the most. It is certainly a lot more interesting, a lot more to it, really, than Artisan Pure. So this is very close to Mandarino di Amalfi by Tom Ford. There's a lot of bitter orange in the open and bergamot, but there's a lot more than just citrus to the fragrance, and I think that's part of the reason, excuse me, that I really like it. So it's 2 citrus notes, but there are 5 aromatic notes in the mid, including pine, and then there are 3 floral notes as well. Geranium, there's iris, and orange blossom. So there's a lot going on here. To me, it has more depth. It's just, I find it a lot more interesting. I find the Artisan Pure, and again, this is totally subjective, so don't go by my opinion only. But yeah, I just find it more complicated, more complex, and a lot more interesting. This is a fragrance that I've broken out. And I got to admit, like for what I paid for this, which was about $15 American, everything here is super high quality. The bottle's really well done. I really like the mesh thing around. This is like really, really heavy metal. It's just really, really well done for the price. And I love the scent too. And finally, we have CK All by Calvin Klein. And I've been very critical of white floral and citrus fragrances because I do tend to think they lean a little more feminine. But, I don't mind this at all because it's not sweet. It doesn't have the sweet component. It's just a nice, fresh fragrance. To me, this is very unisex. I have no problem with white florals, including orange blossom. There's orange blossom in this and a fair amount. There's also freesia, lily, and grapefruit blossom, but it also has a nice balance of citrus. There's the usual bergamot and mandarin. Those are the 2 standard citrus notes, and this I really enjoy because it isn't too sweet and it's fresh. Now, the problem here is the performance. Obviously, the Calvin Klein summer fragrances tend towards freshness and not great performance. You're going to get about 3 hours of longevity, not a lot of projection, but it's a fragrance that I break out regularly in the summer. I unfortunately got this when I first bought it. I bought it in the fall, didn't get much wear from it, but last summer I wore it quite a bit. And it just makes you feel fresh when it's really hot out, especially in August. It's terribly, terribly hot even where I live. So anyway, I really do believe in the philosophy of fresh fragrances if you want to appeal to women. I also believe in subtlety rather than overspraying, rather than dense fragrances. I do think you can wear sweet fragrances. They definitely tend to work better in cool weather, but yeah, don't overspray them, and the heavy, heavy, strong fragrances I don't think work well. So today was kind of a summer fragrance video also with like a little bit of information off the top about how best to wear it. And the thing that bugs me is it feels like the young guys, the guys on TikTok, are being misled. Number one, they're wearing a ton of different fragrances and not their signature scents. And they're the ones most likely to have sweet, heavy, dense fragrances and go beast mode, which is not going to be as appealing as something that's a little bit more subtle. But anyway, live and learn. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys.